Coco Gauff weighs in on calls for Aryna Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek to get points stripped. Aryna Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek are facing calls for a harsher punishment after pulling out of the Dubai Championships. Coco Gauff has had her say after the tournament director of the Dubai Tennis Championships called for some of her biggest rivals to have their ranking points stripped for pulling out of the event at the 11th hour. World numbers 1 and 2 Aryna Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek both withdrew ahead of the WTA 1000 event, with Sabalenka citing a hip injury, while Swiatek, who lost in last week's Doha quarterfinals, wanted a change of schedule. Swiatek has since suggested that top players face harsher penalties for withdrawing from tournaments just before they start, claiming that fines weren't a sufficient deterrent. The Dubai tournament director claimed the reasons for their withdrawals were a bit strange, and questioned whether Sabalenka's injury was severe enough. He told the National, "I don't know. I think there should be a harsher punishment on the players for withdrawing, not just fines. They should be docked ranking points. I even asked the tournament doctor, what is the injury? He said it's a minor injury, not one that would force her to withdraw from the tournament. And for Iga, I asked, isn't this a strange decision?" Ensure our latest sport headlines always appear at the top of your Google search by making us a preferred source. Click here to activate or add us as a preferred source in your Google search settings. I think a fine will not do anything. I feel they should deduct points from the players. A monetary fine won't help. Many years ago, Serena Williams withdrew and was fined $100,000. But what is $100,000? She would play someplace else and make $1 million. So the fine isn't a big deal. Talik is hoping to raise these concerns at a meeting in Rome later this year. But world number 4 Gauff, who is in action at this week's WTA 1000 in Dubai, believes the tournament director's views are too harsh and unfair. I mean, for me, I don't think I've ever really pulled out of a 1000 that I can remember off the top of my head. Yeah, I definitely don't think players do it, like they just don't want to play. I don't think it's that decision. You look at, like, burnout throughout the year. Although maybe it might not affect you now, it will affect you later, the two-time major winner explained. I feel like, for me, this part of the season I have always struggled, I think just because of the transition and things like that. Do I think players should be docked points? Not really. We already have the mandatory. We get zeros on our ranking for everything. For this point in the schedule, I think it's hard to play all the tournaments now that they're 2 weeks. I think the ask of players are becoming more and more and more. I do understand the tournament side. They obviously want the players there. In the past, I think top players have always come to Doha and Dubai. This draw has historically been a tough draw. I understand it's unfortunate this year. I don't think it's fair for players to get docked points. I think, if anything, we should have an optional 1000 like the men do with Monte Carlo. Yeah, I think that's a little bit harsh in my opinion. The relentless tennis schedule and the number of mandatory 1,500-point events on the women's tour have been a key talking point in recent years, with some players admitting they must skip tournaments and receive penalties in order to have enough time to rest and work on their games. Sabalenka and Swiatek are among those who have previously been docked ranking points later in the season for failing to fulfill mandatory tournament requirements. These are known as zero-pointers. At the end of the year, the WTA will remove ranking points from players who did not compete in enough required events. The moment of contest, the heart of the debate. Tennis, like many professional sports, exists in a delicate balance between athlete welfare and the commercial and competitive demands of the global calendar. Recently, that balance was jolted when both Sabalenka and Swiatek, the WTA's number 1 and number 2 players, withdrew from the 2026 Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships, a prestigious WTA 1000 event. Their late withdrawals stirred strong reactions. Swiatek, the tournament director, argued that withdrawing players should be penalized not just with fines but also with having ranking points docked, aiming to protect the prestige of events and discourage late absences. This sparked a broader conversation across the sport, one that reached ears everywhere, including that of Coco Gauff. Gauff's response: empathy over retribution. When asked about the proposal to strip players of ranking points for withdrawals, Gauff took a measured and empathetic stance. Rather than lashing out at her peers or at tournament officials, Gauff emphasized understanding. She acknowledged that the WTA schedule has become denser and more demanding, especially early in the season, where players often transition from one high-level tournament to the next without much rest. Gauff score points. Small blue diamond. She doesn't believe docking ranking points is fair. Players already face 0-point weeks under current rules if they skip mandatory events, meaning they earn no points from those tournaments. But subtracting points already earned? That, she believes, is too harsh. Small blue diamond burnout is real, and long seasons take a toll. Gauff pointed out that physically and mentally, athletes can be stretched thin by an intense calendar. For many, competing week after week impacts not just performance but long-term health too. Small blue diamond flexibility is preferable to punishment. She suggested that the tour might benefit from optional WTA 1000 events, similar to what the men's ATP Tour already offers with tournaments like Monte Carlo. This could help ease scheduling pressure without compromising the prestige of the tours. In essence, Gauff's viewpoint reflects someone who deeply respects the sport and those who dedicate their lives to it, rather than someone who is swayed by headline-grabbing punishment talk. The tension between players and organizers. The core of the debate lies in a clash of perspectives. Trophy organizers, prospective tournament directors like Talik invest heavily in facilities, marketing, and player guarantees to make events top-tier. They rightly want to protect their product and believe that consistent top-tier participation helps both the tour's commercial health and fan engagement. Docking points, in their mind, would discourage last-minute pullouts and ensure star attractions show up. Tennis players, prospective top players, are keenly aware of the demands of their sport. Grand Slams, WTA 1000s, and mandatory events pile up on the calendar, sometimes leaving little room to breathe. For elite competitors, managing schedules isn't just about maximizing fans or sponsors, it's about longevity, injury prevention, and mental resilience. Gauff's reflections highlight this human side of professional tennis life. Both sides have merit, but Gauff's stance puts the emphasis on balance rather than punishment. Beyond this year, what Gauff's comments reveal on the surface? Gauff's comments are about a rules debate, but they also shine a light on larger trends in tennis today. 1. The rise of player voice. Players are no longer passive participants. Whether through social media, press conferences, or direct conversations with the WTA, athletes increasingly influence how the sport functions. Gauff is among the most prominent voices, and her